You are listening to The Hero's Journey. I'm Jeff Garvin.
And I'm Dan Zarzana.
Let the journey begin.
Welcome to the show. Before we go further, please take a moment to share this podcast. And as always, the best thing you can do is review us on iTunes. That makes a huge difference. And I want to thank everybody who has submitted a review and a rating so far. Thank you so much for doing that.
Makes a big difference. Makes us feel so good when we see that review pop up. It's like a little present.
I text Jeff every time I see a new one.
And I'm like, yeah, that's my sister. This is episode 11, The Dark Knight. But Dan, hold on. Wait.
What?
Do you realize what this is?
The Dark Knight.
This is our 12th episode. This episode marks a full year of the hero's journey.
You just said episode 11.
Yes, but
episode 11. It's not 12.
Yes, but if you remember, we started off with episode 0 because we thought that would be a good idea.
Whose idiot idea was that? Right. Mine. It was mine.
No,
I thought it would be cute. Episode 0. No.
I went along with it.
12 episodes. That's a year.
And if you remember, when you and I first started, we said we should commit to a year.
See how it goes.
To figure out how it goes. And here we are. A year later. How you feeling about it?
I feel pretty good about it.
Yeah,
I'm surprised. I'm also surprised that it's already been a year. It doesn't feel like it.
Yeah, I feel like in a way the podcast is exactly what I hoped it would be. In a lot of ways, it's evolved beyond what I expected it would be.
I didn't expect us to have as many monthly listeners as we do.
Yeah, me neither.
I thought it would be like our moms.
Right.
every month.
Oh, what a lovely podcast.
Wait, there's a third listener?
Right.
Who's the third listener?
Right. So I guess we should share. We get between 600 and 1,000 downloads each month.
Spread out among the 11 existing episodes.
Yeah. So it seems like when people first discover the podcast, they are starting with episode 0.
Yeah.
And then trickling down and listening.
Hopefully.
Yeah. Hopefully these episodes will be evergreen. The same way that the hero's journey is an evergreen conversation. Well, we want to take a moment to say thank you, our loyal listeners who've been with us from the beginning, and thank you to the new people who have just gotten on board. You're important too, and we're so grateful that you are listening to the hero's journey.
Totally.
I also want to bring up the point that it's Dan's birthday. We did a little different tradition today. Instead of recording acts 1 and 2, taking a break, and then going out to lunch.
We did lunch first.
I was up late last night playing a show with my band, and we decided we were going to do an early lunch, and so we may theoretically have imbibed some alcohol already.
There may have been some Auchentoshan whiskey involved. Man, that stuff's good.
It's liquid love and caramel. Delivered in a glass. And now, without further ado, The Dark Knight.
Spoiler alert! We are going to talk about the whole story from start to finish, so consider yourself warned.
The Dark Knight was released in 2008 by Warner Brothers and starred Christian Bale, Heath Ledger, Aaron Eckhart, Michael Caine, Gary Oldman, Morgan Freeman, and Maggie Gyllenhaal.
Why do you say it like that?
Maggie Gyllenhaal.
Is that?
I looked it up.
Is that the actual correct pronunciation?
Gyllenhaal is a Swedish name. I found a video, which I will link to in the show notes, where Maggie's brother describes how to pronounce it on Conan O'Brien. Whoa. And I will share that video. But that is Gyllenhaal is the... The screenplay was written by Jonathan Nolan and Christopher Nolan, with a story by Christopher Nolan and David S. Goyer, based on characters created by Bob Kane.
It was nominated for a host of Oscars, including visual effects, art direction, sound mixing, makeup, and won for sound editing and Best Actor in a Supporting Role for Heath Ledger.
He was the first actor to win an award in that category after his death. And a quick note about that. There's this big myth floating around that Heath Ledger got so consumed by the darkness of playing the Joker that he killed himself. That is absolutely not true. He had a blast playing the Joker, and you can see that on screen. He said it in interviews.
Yeah.
Heath Ledger died of an accidental overdose of prescription medication and sleeping aids.
He had terrible chronic insomnia. And I am married to somebody with terrible chronic insomnia, so I see the detrimental effects it has on somebody.
And for someone who's working in a high-pressure situation where you're starring in a movie, that can be a cataclysmic combination.
Right.
If you want to know more about that, there's a documentary called I Am Heath Ledger, and it's great, and I'll put a link to it in the show notes.
I did watch the Dark Knight portion of that documentary after you mentioned it.
Oh, yeah?
And yeah, he was excited. He's most proud of his performance as the Joker of all the roles he ever played.
It certainly is what he'll be remembered for, especially considering that Jack Nicholson's performance in the 1989 Tim Burton film was so definitive.
Yes, it was iconic and seemed untouchable.
Yeah.
How could anyone even think to try to reimagine the Joker?
And he was very hesitant. And when Christopher Nolan brought him in, they had a whole conversation about the Jack Nicholson side of thing. And Heath Ledger was very reticent to get involved. But once Christopher Nolan said, no, we're going a whole different direction. And Heath Ledger had seen what he did with the first movie. He knew it was a different world than Tim Burton's Batman. So he thought, well, maybe I got something to contribute.
Yeah.
So here's a tidbit. Both of the home videos the Joker sends in to GCN network in the movie, directed by Heath Ledger.
The Dark Knight grossed over $1 billion.
Wow.
Is
that the
billion?
Is that the biggest grossing movie we've covered so far?
I think so.
I think so.
It is the 22nd largest grossing film of all time, and it is the most successful Batman film ever.
So even though that $1 billion gross, has now been eclipsed by 6 movies in the Marvel Universe, The Dark Knight was the first comic book movie to reach the $1 billion mark.
Wow.
Clearly a landmark movie by every measure possible.
I rank it among my favorite movies.
Wow, really?
Yeah.
I'm not a big superhero fan, I'll be honest with you. The Marvel movies really don't get my blood boiling. I was never a Superman fan, but I always loved Batman because it was a normal dude. I mean, I realized he was a billionaire, but he was just a normal guy who used technology and anger to fight crime. And I just thought that was so much cooler than having a special power or a mutation or some kind of thing that made you totally unreal. Here's a normal...
So I could be a superhero. I just need technology.
And rage.
I'm plenty angry enough already.
All right. Shall we just dive in?
Act 1 begins with the world of common day, where we see our main character in their status quo, normal life. Everybody knows who Batman is. I don't think we need to reiterate. Batman, billionaire playboy, orphan, caped crusader by night.
Boom.
That's been established through 6 previous Batman films and the first film in this particular Christopher Nolan trilogy. But in terms of this film, the world that Batman has to deal with now is one of clown-masked bank robbers robbing mob banks. So
Right.
We've got criminals versus criminals. Things have gotten that bad.
Yeah.
We've got the police still trying to identify Batman, although they are no closer to unearthing that information, as we see from the prime suspects board at the Gotham Police Department that has pictures of Elvis and Bigfoot and Abe Lincoln.
I thought that was a nice fun poke at like cop dramas in general too.
Right. Lieutenant Jim Gordon is still activating the bat signal on the roof of the Major Crimes Unit building. That is a common Batman trope where the police summon the assistance of Batman with the bat signal.
Sure.
But tonight, the Batman is not responding.
Right.
As Jim Gordon says, hopefully because he's busy. And we see that Batman certainly is busy because now he's also having to combat not only drug dealers on the street, but Batman impersonators wearing hockey pads.
Kind of like Elvis impersonators, only they're Batman impersonators.
So he's got all of this that he has to deal with on top of the normal BS of being the Batman.
Right.
You have anything you want to add to that? As being the world of common day?
I had forgotten that this Scarecrow has a little mention.
Yeah, he's got a little cameo in the beginning.
Yeah, and he says, that's not my diagnosis. That's like his line. And I thought, I can't remember a sequel where like a key villain in the first movie gets like a little tiny cameo in the opening and it's totally glossed over like, no big deal. There's Cillian Murphy and his brilliant performance. And he has like one scene. I just thought that was, and by the way, that makes him the first actor ever to reprise the role of a Batman villain in the whole franchise.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
One thing that bothered me is that during the bank heist is that the final minion, he says,
I'm betting the Joker told you to kill me as soon as we loaded the cash.
No. I killed the bus driver.
Bus driver? What bus driver?
and the guy just happens to be standing exactly where he needs to be struck by the bus. That kind of like bothered me. It was like, oh, that's such a movie moment.
Jeff, let's not forget this is a comic book film.
I know, but I think one of the things that makes this a great comic book film is that it's so
rooted in the real world.
Yeah, in a lot of ways. Everything
that is one of the things that makes me love the Christopher Nolan Batman trilogy above all of the others. Even though I think Tim Burton's his two films, they're all great. Well, they're not all great. Right. I didn't care for Schumacher's very much, but you see, this is a real world location that Nolan uses in all of his.
Well, and all of Batman's stuff is justified by the fact that he is a billionaire and he owns a defense contracting company. I mean, you just kind of have to buy all the stuff that he has. Anyway, that brings us to Call to Adventure, where the hero is presented with a challenge that renders him unable to continue living in the comfort of the ordinary world. Now, it's funny because you've already mentioned what I have as the call to adventure, so I think you're about to disagree with me.
Oh.
Gordon lights the bat signal. That's always Batman's call to adventure. And in this case, Gordon lights the bat signal, and eventually, after he deals with all the wannabes and all that BS, Batman appears, and he and Gordon discuss the bank robbery and their plans to raid all the banks in the city to seize the mob money that the Joker is apparently trying to steal.
Right.
And Gordon asks Batman, what about the Joker?
Yeah.
And he decides,
one man or the entire mob. He can wait.
Can we talk about Christian Bale's almost completely incomprehensible Batman voice and how the Lego movie is all about making fun of that? Oh, anyway.
It's a frightening voice because you're like, why is this guy A, dressed up in a Halloween costume and also talking like that?
I don't know how you get through a whole movie. He must have done ADR on that because I don't know how you talk like this for very long. Anyway. So to me, this is his call to adventure to take on the Joker. Gordon lights the bat signal and says, what about the Joker?
I completely agree with you that is the call. I have that exact moment.
Boom!
The lighting of the bat signal, though, I put in the world of common day because of the conversation between Detective Ramirez and Lieutenant Gordon when she comes to the roof to give Gordon a cup of coffee and says,
So he hasn't shown up?
He often does. But I like reminding everybody that he's out there.
Why wouldn't he come?
Hopefully. Because he's busy.
So that established for me that Gordon lights the bat signal a lot.
Yeah.
And Batman sometimes never arrives.
And we also have to take into account, not only is this a sequel, but it's the middle movie of a trilogy.
Right.
So in a trilogy, if you're looking at the whole arc as a hero's journey, we're in the second act of the three acts. So the call to adventure.
This entire movie is the ordeal of the trilogy.
Right, exactly right.
It really is. It is the Empire Strikes Back of this trilogy.
Yes, and like The Rock, it is
oh my God,
a tumbling sequence of plot. I mean, this movie is just twist after twist after plot point, but to me in a much more satisfying way.
That takes us into refusal of the call. Confronted with the fear of the unknown, the hero refuses the call. Sometimes this energy is expressed from within the hero, sometimes from without. I think there are expressions of both in this film. The first of which is,
what about this Joker guy? One man or the entire mob. He can wait.
Let's hit the mob. We'll worry about the Joker later.
Yeah.
Batman is underestimating how vile the Joker is.
Yes.
That is Batman's refusal of the call from within. From without, I think the Gotham Police Department serve as threshold guardians because, as Jim Gordon states later to District Attorney Dent, the official Gotham PD policy is to arrest the vigilante known as Batman on sight.
Right.
The police department has not fully embraced Batman as an ally. Some of them appreciate what he does to assist them, but some of them think he is a criminal and he needs to be arrested and locked up.
That's a really good point.
That has always been a problem for for Batman, at least in the Christopher Nolan verse.
The way I got into Batman were there were 2 graphic novels that I read in high school. The first one was called Year One.
Yes.
And the second one was called Dark Knight. And Year One was like Batman's origin story.
Right. Frank Miller.
Yeah. And then Dark Knight was him as like an older man, like in his late 40s, early 50s, trying to still be Batman. And I remembered how gritty and realistic compared to Superman and X-Men and all these super colorful, clean comics.
Right.
Batman was this real guy, and he was an outlaw, and he was psychologically damaged by the murder of his parents. He was an effed up guy who was violent and angry.
Right.
And he had tried to find this positive way to express that, but at the end of the day, he was an angry, guy walking around with PTSD and $1 billion. And I feel like Nolan captured that, especially in this movie. That brings us to meeting with the mentor. The hero receives counsel on how to operate in the special world, also known as supernatural aid. Joseph Campbell said, the unexpected assistance that comes to one who's undertaken his proper adventure. The assistance is not so unexpected here because we've already established Batman and his relationship with Alfred, who I think acts as the primary mentor throughout the Batman series.
He's the heart of Batman.
Yes, he absolutely is. He's Batman's conscience.
And surrogate father as well.
Oh, for sure. So in the Bat Bunker, Alfred counsels Bruce Wayne.
Bat Bunker?
The Bat Bunker.
Is that what it's called?
Yeah, in the screenplay it says interior
Is it really?
Bat Bunker. Yeah.
Oh, okay, because it's not the Batcave, because the Wayne Manor gets destroyed at the end of Batman Begins.
Exactly. So
and
this
so there
is
no
the
Batcave.
Yeah, this is the Bat Bunker that's underneath that shipping yard or whatever.
Yeah.
Alfred counsels Bruce Wayne not to confuse his desire to vet the DA with his desire to win back Rachel's love, because Batman is all of a sudden really interested in checking out Harvey Dent, who just happens to be dating Rachel, the woman who he's been pursuing. He also cautions Bruce to
know your limits, Master Wayne.
Batman has no limits.
Well, you do, sir.
Well, can't afford to know them.
And what's going to happen on the day that you find out?
We all know how much you like to say, I told you so.
On that day, Master Wayne, even I won't want to. Probably.
I think Fox, played by Morgan Freeman, also has some mentor moments. He's almost like Q from the James Bond series, right? He's the gadget guy.
Right.
But he's the deliverer of the supernatural aid, which is this sonar device implanted in the cell phone that allows him to remotely see in 3 dimensions. And that supernatural aid becomes vitally important as the plot continues.
Right, yeah. Do you think that Harvey Dent serves some mentor role, or is he purely ally? He says something when they're having dinner. Harvey and Rachel and Bruce and Natasha, the prima ballerina of the ballet,
ballet.
They're all having dinner, and Harvey says,
you either die a hero or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain.
Yeah.
And that plants the idea in Bruce Wayne's head that if he can help Harvey Dent rise up and be successful as the legitimate district attorney of Gotham, Harvey Dent can help clean up the streets, and Bruce doesn't have to be Batman, and he can give up the cowl. Is that a little bit of a call to adventure, possibly? Or is that a little mentor moment, or...
Well, I think Bruce uses that to attempt to evade responsibility. I think Batman...
Whoa, what?
I think Batman has become bigger than he expected it to be, and he sees Harvey Dent as a way out. I just want to escape from being Batman so I can have my girlfriend and my normal billionaire life again.
Sure. But Harvey even says Batman doesn't want to be Batman forever. How could he?
Yeah, especially after having seen Batman Forever. Nobody wants to be Batman Forever.
But we see the effects that being Batman has on Bruce. He gets beat up constantly. It is hard on his body.
Yeah.
And especially if you've seen The Dark Knight Rises, the third film in the trilogy,
right?
He's really, I mean, he's walking with a cane because he's so brutalized.
I don't think Harvey Dent is acting as a mentor there. I think he's acting as a temptation to lure Batman away from who Batman is, which is the guy who's the hero that Gotham needs, whether it's convenient for him or not.
Yeah, okay.
Harvey Dent is the one who delivers the theme of this movie. which is there's not a bright line between villain and hero.
Yeah.
And how you define that depends on your viewpoint.
Crossing the first threshold. The hero must pass a barrier to enter the special world. This crossing represents the hero's commitment to taking on the adventure. Now, in terms of character, Bruce Wayne crossed the threshold long ago when he donned the cowl and became Batman. But in terms of this film, I think the crossing of the first threshold occurs when Bruce travels to Hong Kong to extradite Mr. Lau, a Hong Kong businessman who is essentially acting as the launderer of the money collected by Gotham's underground.
Right.
I think that's the crossing of the first threshold. That's the first major action that Batman takes.
So I didn't go quite that far. Dent, Gordon, and Batman meet on the roof of the police station, and Gordon is confronting Dent about the leak in his office that allowed the mob to recover their money before the cops could raid the banks.
Right.
And Gordon says they need Lau back, but he's halfway to Hong Kong by now, and Batman asks, if I can get Lau back, can you get him to talk? And Dent says, I'll make him sing. And then Batman disappears. I had that as the crossing of the threshold.
Okay.
When Batman it's a fine line.
Yeah, it is. But I think that whole moment could encompass the crossing of the first threshold. I get how you're saying if the threshold is a single pixel and you step from one side to the other, then Batman disappearing because he's gone off to make plans to...
Right. I had his apprehension of Lau as a test, but I can totally get how that whole sequence becomes a crossing of the threshold.
Yeah.
So
I got there because in the crossing of the threshold that Vogler talks about, sometimes the hero transitions into a completely different environment. And so I kind of went, maybe Hong Kong and the United States. Those are very different. So I kind of let that sway me a bit.
I can totally buy that. Well, that brings us to the end of Act 1. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we'll have Act 2.
Hey, Jeff.
Hey, Dan.
Have you read anything awesome in the last month that you want to share?
I've read 5 books in the last month.
Show off.
Yeah, I'm showing off. I've been between drafts, so I'm empty inside.
Okay.
I tried to fill up, but that will end rapidly because I have notes to work on. So you had read the Augustin Burroughs book, and I was finishing reading his brother's book. So I stayed on the autism spectrum, and I read 2 books by Naoki Higashida.
Mm-hmm.
I read Fall Down 7 Times, Get Up 8, A Young Man's Voice from the Silence of Autism. And then I read his debut, The Reason I Jump.
Did David Mitchell translate both of those?
He did.
Okay.
He and his wife, who is Japanese, have a son who's autistic.
Right.
Which is what led him to translate those books. I enjoyed Fall Down 7 Times, Get Up 8 more. Maybe because Naoki was slightly older and so his writing was more mature. But they were fantastic books from the inside of an autistic mind, and I highly recommend them for anybody. And then I read 2 thrillers. I read The Short Drop by Matthew Fitzsimmons. The hero of The Short Drop is an ex-Marine hacker who gets employed to solve the mystery of a missing girl with whom he was friends when he was young. And I enjoyed it, but I felt like the stakes weren't terribly high in the first half. And so it wasn't really till the second half of the book that I really got into it and I have to finish this. And then I read The Pocket Wife by Susan H. Crawford, which I was attracted to because, I've been reading all this mental health nonfiction. The protagonist, it's a thriller from the first person perspective. It's a murder mystery. And the narrator in this book is a woman with bipolar disorder who was the last person to see the victim alive, and she's concerned that she may have been the one who killed her. And she can't remember the day clearly.
Wow.
So she is suspect A in her own mind. It was a great idea, and I really loved how the author explained being in the headspace of being bipolar.
Yeah.
That said, I don't think it was a terribly well-executed thriller. So, yeah, that was the highlights of what I read. I had a really great month in reading. I really enjoyed all those books.
I read a mystery called Sharpshooter by Nadia Gordon. It is her debut novel. It is a book centered around the Napa Valley wine industry. This was the August selection for the August Ridge Book Club that I go up to, that I talk about once a month. The protagonist of Sharpshooter is a restaurant owner in St. Helena in the Napa Valley, and her friend is a winemaker and owner of a winery, and he is accused of murder. So she goes on her own investigation to try to clear his name.
Ooh.
I enjoyed it. I thought it was a lot of fun. Because the character is a restaurant owner, there's a lot of food mentioned. There's something she mentions, pouring a splash of red wine in her coffee in the morning to like kick it up a notch.
Now you're talking.
And we went to when we had the book club meeting up in Santa Barbara, none of us had done this before. So I ran down the street to the coffee shop on the corner and bought some coffees and brought them back, and we opened a bottle of wine there that's from the winery where we meet and tried it.
How was it?
None of us were really impressed. And then the second book I read was The Black Company, which is the first book of a series. The author is Glenn Cook. I listened to this one on Audible. The Black Company is a fantasy novel about a bunch of like paramilitary mercenary guys. They'll do whatever job they're paid to do. Sometimes it's a good thing, sometimes it's not. So it's kind of hard to know whether or not these are good people or not. But the story is told from the perspective of Croker, who is the company physician and analyst. So he is responsible for writing the stories of the adventures of the company. But the narrator, Mark, I think it's Vitor, Vietor. It's either Viator or Vitor. But I saw on Audible, I was scrolling through looking for something else to read, and I saw narrated by him. And I was like, oh, I'll listen to the sample of him. Totally different sounding voice. I was like, holy cow, this guy did a completely like character voice for The Black Company. So
interesting.
That impressed me.
Yeah.
I also think Sean Barrett, who narrated You Die When You Die, I think he did a fantastic job.
Yeah, I agree.
So that's what I read. So not a real productive reading month for me, but I also want to take this moment to encourage anybody to go see the new Spike Lee film, Black Klansman.
Oh, hell yes.
Holy smokes. That was a great movie. It was way funnier than I expected it to be.
Yes, I totally agree with that.
Did you see it?
Yes, I did.
Okay, all right, yeah. And also had me just gross and snotty with sobbing tears at the end. Very effective film. Highly recommended.
Agreed. Well, with that said, shall we move on to Act 2? Act 2 begins with tests, allies, and enemies, what Campbell called the road of trials. Now in the special world, our hero makes allies, meets enemies, and must pass a series of tests to prove his worthiness. I think the allies in a comic book movie are always very clearly defined. In this case, Alfred, Fox, Lieutenant Gordon, Rachel, and for the first part of Act 2, Harvey Dent is an ally. I think the enemies are clearly the Joker and his minions, as well as Maroni, played by a brilliantly underrated actor called Eric Roberts, who has lived in the shadow of his sister Julia Roberts his whole career. He's been in a million movies, and I have yet to see one where I thought he was miscast. He's so good, and I just loved him in this movie because he's kind of like this older, bitter, doesn't give a guy. He's so good. He's not juicing it up as the mafia don. He's just like, yeah, I'm making a living, dude.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed his performance. So Maroni and his other mob goons are all enemies.
Right.
So, this is always...
And I think the Gotham PD, parts of the Gotham PD who are corrupt.
Yeah, that's a really good point. The Gotham PD are both enemy and ally. The test segment is always the hardest because where does the call end? Where does the threshold end? So I'll just kind of lay out the bullet points, and why don't you just holler if I've started to tromp into your approach, okay? Because that's always where it seems the bright line seems to disappear. Batman goes to Hong Kong to apprehend Lau and bring him back to Gordon and Dent. That's the first test as I see it. The second test is the fundraiser.
Right.
The Joker shows up, and this resonated with me. It reminded me of Seven, when Somerset and Mills face off with John Doe relatively early in the thriller film that you see the villain. And so I was like, oh my God, it's the top of Act 2, and the Joker and Batman are face-to-face fighting.
Yeah.
This was like the first signal to me, you don't know how this movie's going to go.
Yeah.
Because I did not expect the Joker to be like, hey, what's up, Batman? Let's fight. I was so surprised, and I loved it. So the Joker is presumably there to either kidnap or kill Harvey Dent.
Right.
But I think he's really there to test Batman, to find out what's most important to him. Is it Rachel or is it Dent? One of the things that the Joker says later in the film is everyone expects, when everything goes by plan, everyone knows what to expect. You have to introduce a little chaos. So here he shows up, and I'm not sure he's particularly ruffled that he doesn't get to Harvey. He is there to rattle the cage.
Okay, go ahead.
As he's there, he discovers, he puts Batman in a dilemma. You can give me Dent, or I'm going to kill Rachel. And he gets very clearly by Batman's actions, Rachel's the one who's important to Batman. So Joker comes away from this realizing, he'll do almost anything to save Rachel.
Huh.
You disagree?
I don't think that he was there to test Batman, because he doesn't know that Bruce Wayne is Batman, and he doesn't know that by breaking into Bruce Wayne's penthouse to crash the fundraiser that will cause Batman to show up.
Oh, you don't think he expects Batman? I mean, I know he doesn't know Batman's Bruce Wayne, but I fully think he expects Batman to show up.
All right.
Rachel even later says the safest place in Gotham City is Bruce Wayne's penthouse. The Joker could not have picked a more conspicuous place to try and apprehend Harvey Dent. Meanwhile, the Joker has also threatened that he's going to kill the mayor of Gotham. The Joker leads the cops to an apartment building where they find 2 dead bodies, and the Joker leaves his calling cards. The Joker playing cards are on the table, but he also leaves behind a bullet for Batman to find. And the bullet is fragmented, and only with Batman's magic technology can he actually pull the fingerprint, and he finds that it belongs to the owner of an apartment that's overlooking the parade route where the mayor is going to be.
Right.
That is clearly a taunt to Batman, and the Joker has figured out only the Batman will be able to figure this out. So this is a trap he's laying. So the address where the Joker led Batman turns out to be a trap, right? So the Joker isn't in the apartment. There's a bunch of guys that are tied up, and the Joker is disguised as a cop, and he takes a shot at the mayor. Mm-hmm. But Gordon acts as a human shield. Gordon appears to die. So this is a test that Batman fails. He falls into the Joker's trap, and we appear to see Gordon pay the price for this. Meanwhile, Dent is enraged, and he finds one of the Joker's thugs and interrogates him, brutally interrogates him, and he plays this bluff game of essentially Russian roulette with his, quote, lucky coin. And this is a test for Dent that Dent fails because he's starting to go...
Yeah, he's slipping into the dark side.
He's starting to get, like, I'm going to go to extreme lengths to obtain, quote, justice. And Batman stops him and he says, hey, you're the last hope for Gotham. You've got to be the good guy.
Yes.
So he tells Dent, call a press conference. I'm going to reveal myself to the public. The only way we're going to defeat the Joker is for me to surrender. So then...
We just tipped into my approach to the cave.
Okay.
Which means that our ordeals are very different.
I knew it! I knew it! What do you want to do? You want to start your approach?
Approach to the innermost cave, where the hero reaches the edge of a dangerous place where the object of his quest is hidden. The approach is the press conference.
Interesting.
Because Batman is offering to unmask himself and be arrested by the police in order to stop the Joker, because the Joker has said the Batman must reveal himself, and every day he doesn't, I'm going to kill people. And they can't find the Joker. Batman interrogates Maroni by throwing him off a 2- or 3-story balcony and shattering his legs, but that does not persuade Maroni to give up the goods on the Joker. He says,
nobody's gonna tell you nothing. They're wise to your act. You got rules. The Joker, he's got no rules. Nobody's gonna cross him for you. You want this guy, you got one way. But you already know what that is. Just take off that mask. Let him come find you.
And then your discussion that you've already talked about Dent when he's interrogating one of the Joker's thugs. Mm-hmm. And Batman comes to him and says,
the Joker killed Gordon. He's gonna kill Rachel. You're the symbol of hope I can never be. Your stand against organized crime is the first legitimate ray of light in Gotham in decades. If anyone saw this, everything would be undone. All the criminals you pulled off the streets would be released, and Jim Gordon will have died for nothing. You're gonna hold a press conference tomorrow morning.
Why?
No one else will die because of me. Gotham's in your hands now.
You can't. You can't give in. You can't give in!
See, to me, these are all failed tests because he tells Rachel, I'm done being Batman. But the real reason is because he wants to be with Rachel. And Rachel has told him some point in the past, when Batman's done, we can be together. Right. So he's harboring this selfish reason for giving up Batman. It's not really about saving people. It's about the pressure being off of him.
I think it so is.
Interesting. Well, that's not what motivates him to get back with Rachel. He sees that as his only way to be with Rachel, the person he loves. And he's eager to shed the mantle. He doesn't want the responsibility of these deaths on his hands. And Alfred even tells him that's what heroes do. They accept the responsibility and they keep going anyway.
Right.
He's still being tested in failing tests. He tells Alfred to burn all the blueprints, the design, the files, anything that occurred. He is ready to give up. And it's not him that generates the approach to the inmost cave. It's Harvey Dent, when Harvey Dent pulls the Spartacus moment and claims to be Batman at the press conference and is taken into custody. To me, those are all tests he fails. And then we get to the approach. And to me, the approach begins with that fantastic chase sequence through the streets of Gotham. The Joker appears to be trying to kill Dent, and Batman is trying to stop him. That's, to me, the beginning of the approach. Am I already in your...
Wow, that's the beginning of the approach.
That's the beginning of the approach, yeah. They capture the Joker, and that's still not the inmost cave. And that's another surprise, because wait, they've captured the Joker? This is too easy. Something's terribly wrong. Meanwhile,
they don't know that. That's not their...
No, but we, the audience...
That's not their perception.
We, the audience, are like, wait a minute, they captured the Joker. This is happening too fast. So, meanwhile, Dent and Rachel go missing, and the Joker tells Batman that they are secured at 2 different locations and that Batman will only be able to save one.
Right.
So Batman races off to rescue Rachel, and the Joker breaks out of the holding cell because he's planted this cell phone bomb in one of his minions, right?
Yeah.
And he blows up his thugs with a bomb he's literally sewn inside him. This is the approach to that darkest place. I think it's time for Deal or Ordeal, right?
Okay.
We gotta look at each other's cards.
All right.
Every time we do this podcast now, we do a game called Deal or Ordeal, where we try to guess what portion of the movie the other has pegged as the ordeal. Dan, you want to read it?
Why don't you start?
Oh, Jeff's ordeal. Batman must choose to rescue Rachel or Harvey. That is exactly right. That is what I had pegged as the ordeal.
That is what you picked.
Absolutely right.
Batman faces Joker at the top of the Pruitt building? That's the end of the movie.
Okay, good. That's not what you chose as the ordeal?
No.
Okay, good.
The police convoy chase that's what I picked as the ordeal.
Interesting. No, that's not the ordeal.
Yeah, it is.
Okay, so I'm glad I got it wrong, but you got mine right. So points to you for picking the correct ordeal.
Wow.
So how is
the big action sequence in this movie is this police convoy?
I'm just trying to wrap my brain around how that fits the Vogler and Campbellian sense of ordeal. Because it seems like you're saying in an action movie it has to be like the big action sequence, but I don't agree with that. So the ordeal is when the hero faces the ultimate test, often risking death to overcome his worst fear, sometimes actually appearing to die.
Batman sacrifices himself to save Harvey Dent. That's the risking his own life part when he launches the Batmobile in front of the rocket-propelled grenade, which then results in the destruction of the Batmobile. And it could have killed Batman, too. If Harvey Dent dies, Batman will have to continue being Batman, because the death of Gotham's White Knight will cause the populace of Gotham to descend into despair. And so Batman is doing everything that he can to save Harvey Dent and help him be successful so that he can stop being Batman.
Interesting.
And also, Jeff, of the 11 featurettes on the Blu-ray this film, 7 of them are about this car chase.
Well, sure.
It was an ordeal for the production crew as well.
Okay, while I buy that and I get how it was a big action sequence, I don't think those things are necessarily relevant to the mythical structure of the story. I mean, for me, the ordeal is Batman getting Harvey Dent out of that warehouse, thinking it's going to be Rachel, realizing it's Harvey Dent, going in there even though the bomb's about to go off and pulling him out of the building, and then Rachel dying. That is Batman's worst fear at this point, is the loss of the one woman that he loves.
Wow.
And he faces that. So to me, that's the ordeal.
Interesting. I will be really interested to hear what your road back is then. The ultimate boon, or reward, seizing the sword, the hero seizes the object of his quest. So by rescuing Harvey Dent, that restores Harvey Dent's reputation. Batman's identity is resecured because now he's been proven not to be Harvey Dent. Lieutenant Gordon is resurrected when he is revealed to be the driver of the prison van, and he is rewarded with a promotion to commissioner. So the famed Commissioner Gordon of Batman lore. And the Joker is apprehended, which we as the audience don't know that that's a bad thing yet.
Okay.
One aspect of the reward is that the seized sword could be a false reward, and the hero may have misjudged his opponent. And that is why I clung to the previous sequence as the ordeal, as the capture of the Joker. That's what he wants to do. That's what Batman wants to do. He wants to capture the Joker. He is the villain. That is achieved.
Interesting.
You're looking at it, I think, as from almost like from a film student perspective, where you are hyper analyzing or meta analyzing the story, which is fine because that's what we're doing here.
Right.
But I guess I watched it from just a viewer perspective, and I didn't apply any extra knowledge that I may have had. I've seen this movie several times, so I already knew what was going on. But at this point in the film, you look at the cops, Commissioner Gordon, he is elated when he opens up that back door of the prison van and he sees Dent's face when he's, "Oh, Gordon, you're alive." And Gordon is so happy and proud. He's like, "We got him, Dent. We got him." And the mayor comes into the prison holding cell to see that they really did get the Joker, and they feel like they won. They don't know that the Joker has orchestrated this hugely complex punishment against everybody. So that's why I think this is the reward.
Interesting. You make a very strong case. I find your analysis compelling. I still think the ordeal, the life and death, world-changing moment for Batman is Dent versus Rachel, and him getting that wrong and realizing that he's been the victim of the Joker's trickery. That is what transforms him back into Batman. So for me, reward / seizing the sword, I don't see a real reward here. In fact, I see a reverse reward where Batman loses. Rachel dies, and his replacement, the person he rescues instead, Dent, is physically and spiritually maimed.
Yeah.
So the only sword that I can see is that Batman is going to be Batman again, and that this ordeal has motivated him to, now he's going to go after the Joker no matter what.
You're saying Batman's going to be Batman again, but he hasn't stopped being Batman.
Well, he was ready to give up. He went into that press conference ready to say, "I'm Batman, I will be Batman no more, Harvey Dent's the new hero." And that was taken from him by the Joker. So this is him reclaiming that mantle. But I think that's when there's a really great villain, the villain drives the story. I mean, Bruce Wayne could just, he's a billionaire. There's nothing at stake from him once Rachel's dead. There's nothing at stake for him except his love and loyalty to the city. So that's all that's driving him to be Batman again.
You make that sound like a very small thing. That's what Batman is. He is justice.
Right. But remember, Bruce Wayne and Batman are two men, and Batman was ready to give up. You said it yourself. Harvey Dent's reputation has been restored. He could step back, but he's like, no, the Joker took the most precious thing from me, and now I have to go get him. Agree to disagree.
All right. Well, we could scratch fight a little bit more, but I think we need to have a beverage break.
I have before me the magic bag in which Dan has concealed some sort of beverage. Oh, Ace California Dry Apple Craft Cider, the Joker. The label is literally a Joker.
The Joker card.
It is the Joker card.
Yeah.
California Cider Company from Sonoma.
California Cider Company, as you said, is in Sonoma. They're in the Sebastopol area of Sonoma County. They've been making Ace ciders there since 1993. They have 9 different ciders.
Wow.
They're all made with champagne yeast, fermented 10 to 14 days, and then cold filtered 4 times.
Wow.
They're available in 12-ounce bottles, 22-ounce bottles, that's what we've got here, and kegs. The Joker cider, which is the one we have here, was first launched in 2008, which is when The Dark Knight was released. What? So I wonder, I couldn't find any information on their website about it.
Huh.
Nor do I think there is anything on the bottle that says this is brewed in honor of the movie or in honor of Heath Ledger or anything like that. But I wonder if there was some conjunction there. It is a 6.9% ABV cider, and they're most award-winning of all of their ciders. And they say it pairs well with cheese and fishes.
Well, we have neither cheese nor fish, but we're going to drink it anyway.
Yeah. Very pale.
Yeah, it's pale.
Give me the bottle.
Quite bubbly, like champagne.
Yeah.
It has a vaguely apple-y scent, like apple or pear.
Well, it is an apple cider. That is
appropriate. I was right, as usual.
You are.
With my analysis.
You are.
Sláinte.
That is a really clear, pale straw color.
Yeah.
Clear. It smells like champagne. I hate champagne.
It tastes like champagne. It's very dry. It's not sweet for a cider. It's very, very dry. But
okay. All right. I'm going to taste it.
It tastes like champagne.
It tastes better than champagne. I hate champagne. There's something about it. I don't think I've had a champagne I've liked.
Wow.
I've liked other sparkling wines. Prosecco from Italy I like. That's usually on New Year's Eve. That's what we'll buy. We'll buy a bottle of Prosecco instead of champagne. There's just something about champagne. It's got this funkiness that I just don't like. To me, it smells and tastes like dirty socks.
It's the goat cheese of wine for you?
Goat cheese?
Yeah.
Goat cheese is great.
Oh, goat cheese tastes like socks.
Well, you're wrong about goat cheese as well. You can't get anything. You can't get anything right this episode.
Huh.
I like this though. It's got a real subtle kind of apple juice flavor, which is what you would expect from a cider. But like you said, it's very dry, like champagne.
It is very dry. I kind of like that about it.
So it's not super sweet. I remember growing up, and I used to drink apple juice a lot.
Yes.
And at some point as I grew older, it became too sweet for me, and I stopped enjoying apple juice. But this is very nice. This is really good hot weather porch pounder kind of stuff.
Yeah, I can get behind that.
Get done mowing the lawn and then sit on the porch with a glass of this. Yeah.
It's perfectly cold. Well done, Daniel-san.
Let's get into Act 3. Let's continue our slap fight.
Act 3 begins with the road back. The hero is pursued by the vengeful forces he disturbed when he seized the sword. The Joker is free again. He confronts one of the mob bosses.
Chechen?
Yeah. And he burns his half of the money.
With Lau sitting on top.
Yep. The Joker then visits Harvey Dent in his hospital bed, and we see Harvey Dent for the first time with his, half of his face is burnt off.
Just destroyed.
It's gone.
Yeah.
One of the things Christopher Nolan is famous for is attacking some new, he likes to push the edge of technology in film, and this was definitely the first time we've seen that photorealistic a half of a person's face, So the Joker visits Dent in his hospital bed and eggs him on. He transforms him into the villain Two-Face. He's the one who killed Rachel, and he's the one who says,
introduce a little anarchy. Upset the established order, and everything becomes chaos. I'm an agent of chaos. Oh, and you know the thing about chaos? It's fear.
And of course, Harvey is strapped to his hospital bed, so he can't get up and beat the crap out of the Joker. He is a captive audience. He can do nothing except listen to this nonsense, and it drives him over the edge.
On top of what you just said, we've seen the Joker now be beat up by Batman and by the cop who stands guard over his cell, whom he eggs on into beating him up.
Yeah.
So we know the Joker does not fear pain. He does not fear intimidation.
You have nothing to threaten me with. Nothing to do with all your strength.
So the Joker is a vengeful force who then unleashes another vengeful force, Dent, who goes after the dirty cops who are responsible for his disfigurement and for Rachel's death.
Right.
And then the Joker makes a threat to the, quote, bridge and tunnel crowd. I don't know how the Joker keeps coming up with these amazing schemes. That's part of the brilliance of this movie. He's rigged 2 ferries to explode. One is full of cons and the other's full of commuters. And he gives them each a detonator and tells them that he says that one group has to kill the other or he'll blow them both up at midnight. So now we've got the population of the B&T crew versus the cons. Meanwhile, Bruce Wayne shows Fox his new weapon. He's taken Fox's sonar technology and applied it to every cell phone in the city. And Fox expresses a little of the refusal of the return here, which is part of the road back, insisting that it's unethical to use that kind of technology to spy on 30 million people.
Right.
And Batman persuades him to do it just once. So Fox relents, and Batman heads off to track down the Joker. Should I continue, or have I stepped on your resurrection?
Yeah, you did.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Wow.
The whole ferry showdown is the beginning of the final climax of the film for me.
Wow.
That's the beginning of Resurrection.
Okay. I think we're almost on the same page. Let me just finish what I've got for Roadback. So, meanwhile, Dent/Two-Face has kidnapped Gordon's family and is holding them hostage at the warehouse where Rachel died. This is still vengeful forces. Dent holds Gordon responsible for what's happened to him. He lures Gordon into this warehouse and confronts him. While that's happening, Batman locates the Joker and defeats yet another of his ingenious schemes to fool the cops, and they have a spectacular face-off hanging off the top of this skyscraper.
Mm-hmm.
And whether or not we agree on where this is in the plot or in the hero's journey, this is the Oscar moment for Heath Ledger. He's hanging upside down on the top of this skyscraper.
You just couldn't let me go, could you? This is what happens when an unstoppable force meets an immovable object. You truly are incorruptible, aren't you? Huh? You won't kill me out of some misplaced sense of self-righteousness. And I won't kill you because you're just too much fun. I think you and I are destined to do this forever.
You'll be in a better jail forever.
Maybe we could share one. You know, they'll be doubling up the rate this city's inhabitants are losing their minds.
This city just showed you that it's full of people ready to believe in good.
Until their spirit breaks completely. Until they get a good look at the real Harvey Dent. Huh? And all the heroic things he's done.
Even though Batman's about to win, the Joker completely dominates him in every way. And Heath Ledger's performance of it is, I think the reason why people confused his performance with the reason he died is because in that moment, he's so persuasive that nothing is meaningful in life. So that's what I've got for the road back.
All of that is Resurrection. The big climax at the end of a story. I would think that entire sequence of the tension of the 2 ferries and one ferry full of some of the most magnificent scum in Gotham, holding a detonator that, if they press it, will destroy the other ferry full of the good and lawful people of Gotham City, who themselves are in possession of a detonator that, if they push it, will destroy a ferry loaded with a bunch of scum. That is the culmination of the Joker's master plan.
Yes, I have
right here.
I have that moment where they don't blow each other up in Resurrection.
Yeah, okay.
And there's that great performance by Tommy Tiny Lister, who I recognized as Zeus from WWF. I don't know if you remember, the guy who plays the Khan, who gives this really compelling performance of, you don't have the guts to kill them, you know you want to, but you don't want to be responsible, I'll do it. And then he takes the detonator.
Throws it out the window?
That guy, he has 209 credits on IMDb. That
Holy smoke.
He's worked more than, I can't remember the last time I looked up an actor who had 209 credits.
Wow.
And this movie, that performance is so great because you absolutely believe he's going to pull that trigger. And that's not how it goes. And again, I think Christopher Nolan's genius in this movie is he persuades you it's going this way, and then it doesn't go that way.
Right.
It's great.
Right.
So yeah, I have that moment where they don't blow each other up as part of Resurrection for sure. I've got a couple other things that I think totally fall inside of Resurrection.
Okay.
That I'd pitch. One is Batman arrives just in time to save Gordon's family from yet another threat.
Yes.
That's a resurrection.
Because, as you've stated, but as a reminder, Two-Face, really, has kidnapped Dent's family and is threatening to kill them in front of Jim Gordon.
Right. And then Batman saves Gordon's family, but kills Dent, which resurrects.
Yeah, right.
That resurrects Dent as a hero because Batman says to Gordon,
right,
I'm going to take the fall.
That is absolutely correct. And I loved that moment where
so good.
Dent's body is lying on the ground and his head is turned so that his maimed side is exposed. And Batman turns his head so that Harvey Dent's flawless Aaron Eckhart handsomeness is exposed instead. And he says, Gotham needs its true hero. Let me take the fall for the bad things that Two-Face did, and let's preserve Gotham's White Knight, Harvey Dent.
Yeah.
That is Batman sacrificing himself to resurrect the image of Harvey Dent. And for people who don't know, throughout this film, Joker refers to Batman's one rule. And that one rule is Batman does not kill. I think important to note that the death of Harvey Dent is an accident.
He was not trying to kill Harvey Dent. He was trying to save Gordon's boy.
Right. So it was collateral. When
I walked out of this film for the first time, I feel like I'd seen two movies. I thought this should have been the origin story of Harvey Dent turning into Two-Face, and that he should have come back in the next movie. I felt like his arc only got like one act of a movie.
Right.
Because he turns into Two-Face and then he dies. And I thought, man, I would have liked to see him run amok for another movie. I was so surprised that they invented him and killed him off in one movie. Return with the elixir. The hero, having won some precious treasure or reward, now returns to the ordinary world to share the spoils of battle.
I'm whatever Gotham needs me to be.
That's the best Lego Batman ever. I think we probably agree on this, even though we sort of drifted on Road Back Resurrection. The return to the ordinary world here is the return to a peaceful Gotham. Batman makes the heroic choice to be the fall guy so that the people of Gotham can retain their faith in the city and the city's government.
Gotham needs its true hero. No. You either die a hero, or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain. I can do those things because I'm not a hero. Not like Dent. I killed those people. That's what I can be.
No, you can't. You're not.
I'm whatever Gotham needs me to be.
Gordon says he's the hero Gotham deserves, but not the one it needs right now. And this is the Empire Strikes Back of the Batman movies, so of course it ends in a dark place.
Yeah.
But with a glimmer of hope for the future.
Batman! Why is he running, Dad?
Because we have to chase him.
Okay, we're going in! Go, go! Move!
He didn't do anything wrong.
Because he's the hero Gotham deserves. But not the one it needs right now. So we'll hunt him. Because he can take it. Because he's not our hero. He's a silent guardian. A watchful protector. A dark knight.
That's it for this episode. And because I won Deal or Ordeal.
That's right.
For the very first time. The third time we've done it. And we've tied both times.
You have defeated me.
So, for the first time, I actually get to choose...
Pick your movie.
Well, Jeff, I think this is a movie that we both love. And Rotten Tomatoes currently has it as number 9 on the best horror films of all time, 1979's Alien.
Ooh, strong choice, Daniel.
Strong female protagonist?
Yeah. kicking ass in space,
yep,
I'm in. If you like what you heard, please subscribe on iTunes, Stitcher, or wherever you get your podcasts.
And if you love what you've heard, please give us a rating and a review and tell your friends to listen.
We want to thank Taylor Jordan for our amazing Hero's Journey fanfare and bumper music. Check him out on dramatics.net. And to Dean Eppington at DAE Design for our logo. And to California Cider Company for Joker Dry Apple Draft Cider.
The Dark Knight is copyright 2008 Warner Brothers Pictures.
Please follow us on Twitter at Heroes Podcast, like us on Facebook.com/Heroes Journey Podcast, and check out our hilarious and informative show notes at heroesjourneypodcast.com.
Until next time,
Journey on.